You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Hi, welcome to the Legal Connection Show. I'm Toni Collins, and I co-host the Legal Connection Show with Cheryl Jahani. We're two licensed attorneys in Texas, and we do the Legal Connection Show to help the residents of Montgomery County and Texas answer legal questions that we get during the week and that have come up that we think would be of interest to the community. We are on irlonestar.com. You can get us on Facebook at the Legal Connection Show if you need to leave during the broadcast or want to watch it later. You can get us on YouTube, and you can hear us if you are driving down the road and you're around here locally on FM 106.1 and 104.5. We actually have two locations. Okay, so today's show should be pretty interesting, I think. I think we're doing the car theft show, and it's because I have I represent car thieves. A lot of times they are falsely accused, but I would say 50% or more of the time they are not falsely accused. They are car thieves, and it's not that I represent them to get them exonerated. I represent them to get the best deal in TDC that I can get them. And while I'm representing them, I get to learn some of the things they do to steal your car. And I also recently had my car stolen, and I've got a couple of people that have bought stolen cars that came asking and pleading, what do I do? I found out my car was stolen. I did all the right things. So today we're going to go over a few topics. We're going to have a two-part series on car theft because there's so many things to cover. And here are the topics that we're going to cover all together, and then we're going to get started. What happens if you buy a stolen car? And you didn't know it. You did all the right things, and then you find out your car was stolen. And you'd be surprised how often this happens. Do you get arrested? Do you have to give your car up even though you already paid for it? What happens? The next thing we're going to go over is how people get away with selling a stolen car to you, the unsuspecting buyer. And by the way, they sell them to dealerships too. They've gotten so good, these car thieves, with the technology and the way that they can make things look like they're legitimate, that it is amazing what they get away with. There's something called Vin Cloning, which I learned about through one of my clients. And they also replace the VIN with a salvage VIN or a similar make. It all looks so legitimate. Even the dealerships have a bad time without thorough inspection and suspecting that it's been stolen, finding that these cars were stolen. How do you spot a stolen car? Did the seller show up in person? Is the price too good to be true? Did the Carfax match the last seller? So we're going to go over about 10 different ways you can spot a stolen car, whether you're the purchaser or you just see it driving down the street. How do you avoid buying a stolen car? We're going to give you a list of things for that. Top 10 ways cars are stolen. We're going to show you, and then so I guess this is what my thieves tell me, but I also got it off a list, and it made perfect sense that I didn't think about it before. How to prevent your car from being stolen, what to do when your car is stolen, and really interesting insurance fraud schemes that you do not want to try this at home. These are things that people do when their car is not running well after they bought it. They're at their wit's end. They just don't want the car anymore, and they can't sell it for what they want. It's got a higher value insured than it does on the market. They enter into these insurance schemes, which kind of explains a lot of times why the insurance companies give you such a bad time on settling when your car has been stolen or damaged, because they have been subjected to these pretty flagrant and not uncommon insurance schemes. Okay, so the first questions that we have are, what happens if you buy a stolen car? Okay, so this is what happened, and I didn't know because a friend of mine just recently bought a stolen car and was beside himself because he paid $18,500 in cash for this, and then just in passing said, can you look at this Carfax in the title? I have I looked at everything. I looked at the VIN, I have the Carfax, the title looks good. I did everything right, I think, but I'm feeling really uncomfortable about it. Well, there was a lot of red flags about his particular situation. First, the car price was about $10,000 under market. That's not in and of itself a reason a car would be stolen, because it could have some mechanical problems. It could have gotten a wreck. But that is a flag. You should be looking at that. If the price is too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. So do your homework on that. The next thing that he brought to our attention is that it didn't have a registration sticker on the windshield. Now that is also not, doesn't scream the car's been stolen, because it could be that the windshield was recently replaced, or it hadn't been inspected for that year and it was just scraped off and they were waiting to sell it. That is not uncommon with dealership cars. It's not uncommon with people selling cars. But normally you would see the inspection sticker in the windshield. Now, the next thing is that you go check the VIN. You check the VIN on a Carfax. You go to my friend went to the National Crime Bureau. I think it's called the National Crime Auto Bureau. We'll go over that in a little bit, where you have to look. And he put it in there. It didn't show the car was stolen. Called the police to check it out. Wasn't stolen. Everything had one owner. One owner was selling it to him. Everything looked pretty legitimate, but we ultimately determined that the car was stolen. And we're going to get into how that happened. And so his next question is, now that I know this car is stolen, what do I do? I don't even know where to go with this. And I didn't know either, because I'd never bought a stolen car, but you would think that if you paid good money, you should be able to track down the dealership that sold it to you, the paper plates that are on it and all that. But it's not that easy. Texas doesn't have as strong laws for car theft as you would think they would, as other states do. And I'll just throw out there that Wisconsin, of all states, kind of a sleeper state in the view of Texans, has a law that says if a dealership sells you a car and you learn it was stolen, and I'll go into how that works from state to state. The law in Wisconsin requires that the dealership reimburse you in full. What happens is that you register in the state that it was sold, but if the car moves across the state, then it's really difficult to detect if it's been stolen. And these car thieves will, pick the car up, depending on whether they chop shop it or whatever, and move it through Mexico or to a different state. And it could be 4 or 5 owners down the pike before you find out that this car that you own is stolen. And you won't even find out until you go to the dealership to trade it in, and then they run a national check or whatever they do. The dealerships have, all these different resources, and they tell you that they're only going to give you a certain lower value on it because it's been in a number of wrecks. And you're like, I've never been in a wreck with this car. It never had a wreck before. But then you find out the previous owners had wrecks, and now it's showing up on the reports that they're getting. So it may not just be you're buying it from someone that stole it. It could be that it was stolen 3 or 4 owners before you, and it was done so well and so surreptitiously that even the car dealerships and the people selling before didn't know about it. So what happens when you buy a stolen car? This is what typically will happen, unless you've got some connections or you've got some people that can help you in law enforcement. The vehicle will be confiscated. If you're stopped and an alert officer runs your VIN number, when it comes back as stolen, the police will impound the vehicle immediately, and you will not get it back. So it's not your car. It's a stolen car. It doesn't matter that you paid for it. It's stolen property. So they're going to take that car if they found out it's stolen. The next thing that may happen is you may get arrested. If you don't have a bill of sale and a contract, then you are probably going to be arrested. Getting angry or emotional at this point is unlikely to help you, as you are the main suspect in the vehicle theft, because you are driving and you are unauthorized to drive this vehicle that has been listed as stolen. And the bill of sale that you have, if it doesn't match who the owner is and the contract doesn't match who it shows that the owner, the VIN belongs to, that's not going to help you. You may very well still get arrested. So you want to be really careful about the car you're driving. In fact, you may want to go out to, that car that you own or the 10 cars you own and go so far as to check the VIN on the engine to make sure that it matches the VIN that's on the dash, which is the easiest one for thieves to change. We're going to go over a little later in the show the up to 10 places that your VIN can be located, and some other things to prevent theft for your own car, what have you. But the next thing is that you may get arrested, and this is what happened to the guy that stole our car. He may not even have been the thief. We think that he was, but he was actually driving our car, and he got arrested for unauthorized use of vehicle. Of course, we learned that he had he wasn't here legally, and he had 6 pending felonies, including 3 car thefts, a kidnapping, an unauthorized use of vehicles, and 3 misdemeanors. He has 9 pending cases in Fort Bend and Harris County, and all of these judges let him out on a PR bond. It's just, and then I learned yesterday that this guy is still out on bond, and he gave the wrong name to the officers. He's not here legally. He had an ICE hold but was let out without a bond. And I found out that he hired one of the most expensive law firms in Houston to represent him now that he can see that the what's hitting the fan. So these people make a lot of money, and it's disheartening to think that this guy is now lawyering up, and he's not a citizen after he's stolen so many cars, and he's out there now on bond. He's probably still stealing cars. So anyway, he's got me after him, though, which is helpful since I know all the prosecutors and all the attorneys involved, and if I can help it, he won't steal your car. The next thing that will happen is that you'll likely lose at least some of the items in the vehicle. If you have owned the vehicle for more than a few months, you likely have accumulated a number of personal items in it. When the car is impounded, they will do what's called an inventory incident to arrest, or the police may do one in the field. It's very unlikely that what you find when you go to the impound yard will match what's supposed to be in there. Good luck filing a claim on it, because once it's in the impound yard, there's some liability, but not much. And the police may very likely take the items that are in the car as evidence for their case. So that goes to one, tidbit of information that might be helpful. One helpful hint: don't live out of your car, because if it gets impounded, you're going to lose everything. So you want to be kind of a neat freak about driving that vehicle that you're kind of considering your home. But also, just keeping a neat car is kind of nice. I mean, I think as you're traveling, you lure people into your car if you've got a bunch of stuff in there. Okay, the fourth thing that will happen if you buy a stolen car is if you are involved in an accident, you may have trouble with your insurer paying the claim. The insurer will find out that the police report that the vehicle was stolen. Depending upon your insurer and how long that you have been a customer, you may find that they are unwilling to pay your claim. This may result in your filing suit against the insurance company, and it may take months or even years to settle that matter because you're driving a stolen car. Therefore, it is not insurable. It's not insured per the contract that you have because it's not you don't own the car. You won't get your money back. That's the most important thing that I can tell you. In Wisconsin, you would if you got it from a dealership, but not here in Texas, unless you can find the dealership that sold it to you, and it could be a little fly-by-night dealership, and they get something called a Texas dealership bond. It's only a $25,000 bond, but if you can sue against that bond, if you are, wily and educated enough to be able to get to the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles and find out what their dealer's dealership license is, and then be able to learn who they are bonded with, then you can sue for that bond to be compensated for the money that you paid out. The problem you're going to have is you're going to have to get in line. You're probably not the first person that has bought a stolen car from this dealership. Okay. Even if it was a dealership that sold you a fraudulent vehicle, you can bet that they have insulated themselves from lawsuits through setting up corporations with corporations as their representatives and so on, and you are going to be out thousands of dollars or more for the vehicle. If it was a private individual, then he or she will almost certainly deny that they knew it was stolen, and in some instances that they even sold it to you, because they're gonna use those straw man because they don't want to get caught because they know they're stolen a stolen car. The burden of proof will rest upon you to prove otherwise. And when people are buying cars off of OfferUp or eBay or I guess even Carvana, you're not inspecting that car in person, but we're going to go the next part of our show. We're going to go a step further, and we're going to tell you what you need to do if you are buying a car online or through an individual, which happens quite a bit, to protect yourself. If you buy a stolen car now, knowing it's stolen, that's a whole different ballgame. If you knew it was stolen, then you are also a criminal. You're complicit with having stolen the car of the person that owned it, and you're going to go down. So that's kind of a bad thing. So don't be buying stolen cars knowing it, not even if it's a good deal. Okay, so the next thing we want to cover is how people get away with stealing a stolen car to you, the unsuspecting buyer, and even to dealerships. I mean, dealerships don't even know. So there's a few statistics that we want to go over. According to the FBI's most recent data, over 748,000 vehicles are stolen nationwide, and around 200, it only says 228 stolen vehicles per 100,000 people. Okay, so that's a pretty big percentage. What is that like? It looks like about a little over 2% are stolen per year. So that's a pretty high percentage. But contrary to what you might believe, it's not hot rod sports cars that are being stolen. It's actually, according to the National Insurance Crime Bureau, the top 10 most stolen cars nationwide are family cars. In first and second place are the humble Honda Civic and Honda Accord, together representing about 1/7 of all car thefts in this country. Aside from buying an old and reliable vehicle, you should use extra caution and good judgment if you're buying a car for sale by owner, buying a car online from a stranger, or even at a less recognized or prominent dealership. And that's those little fly-by-night small ones that are kind of open up on the side of the road. They can turn into big dealerships, but they certainly they're trying to make ends meet. And in Houston, I would think, with the trafficking that we've gone over in previous shows with the border surge, and they all need vehicles, and obviously they have plenty of money because they've just spent up to $10,000 a head per person coming in. They've saved a little nest egg to get their vehicle to keep it going. Thieves are devious and often genius. Many know exactly how to get away with a crime and leave an unsuspecting buyer left with essentially nothing. Did you know that if a vehicle you purchased is determined to be stolen, you can lose it because it can be seized while you are left empty-handed? And we just went over that. Many car thieves tear down the stolen property and sell it for parts. However, selling a stolen vehicle in its entirety can be much more lucrative. So why should they do a chop shop and redo and resell your car when they can flip that beautiful new red shiny Jeep by just changing out a few parts of the VIN number? That's a lot of work when they can flip it really quick, and they do flip them within a day or two of stealing it. That's how fast they flip these cars. The thieves take the legitimate information off of a registered vehicle with a similar year, make, and model and pass their stolen vehicle off to this legitimately registered car. Therefore, if you can even look it up and it looks like your car is legitimate, if it hasn't been reported stolen because it was stolen so recently, then you're buying a stolen car. There's other flags, though. We're going to talk about those. They use the false VIN and alter the numbers everywhere the VIN is found. Usually you can find it in the interior of the car door, the dashboard when you look down through the windshield, the title and the registration. But they don't change the engine if it's etched on it. But sometimes it's even just on a plate on the engine. But we're going to help you be able to find other places to be able to determine this is stolen, and later on in the show. Now, how to spot a stolen car for sale. It can be fairly easy to spot a stolen car for sale when you know what to look for while car shopping. Is the seller trustworthy? the first thing I'd be looking at is if I'm buying it from some, body that's, on a street corner saying, hey, I got this car around the corner. That's not a trustworthy seller. I guess it could be, but you definitely want to look into that person. Well, it can sometimes be hard to tell. It's usually just it's a feeling. But regardless of that, you want to check into the seller. And the first thing I would do as an attorney is I would get their name and I would run them through the Harris County, the Fort Bend, and the Montgomery County District Court and County Court sites just with their name to see if they've got any convictions. You don't want to be buying a car from a felon, particularly one that sells stolen cars or has been convicted of selling stolen cars. That's a big red flag. Are you looking to buy a car from a well-known, established used car dealership? Or are you purchasing online? Can you trust a seller on the internet? Cars are bought online all the time. However, the risk of buying a stolen vehicle is obviously greater online. You'll definitely need to do some research. You get these these Nigerian princes that send you the email saying, I've got a car that's for sale and I've got this. You get these great deals that you get emailed. Don't fall for the trap. You're not going to get something for nothing. You might be, if somebody's got something to sell, unless it's truly, an estate sale and you can prove that someone has died and they're just trying to dump the car. You don't get something less its actual market value. Be looking at this very closely. They would just give it to their mother-in-law or sell it to their cousin or something. They're not going to let go of a really good car for something that's far off its actual market value unless something's wrong with it or it's stolen. Inspect the car yourself when you're going to buy a car and have a mechanic take a look. I can honestly tell you, when I bought a car, I've never brought a mechanic in. It's something that you should do. I should have done it. I should have learned this on my first car that I bought, my beautiful 1976 Triumph TR6. It's the cutest sports car you ever saw. I didn't have a mechanic look at it, and I was paying market value for it. But what I didn't know is it was rusting all over the place. And I learned from a recent mechanic that if you open up the trunk and you look at the trunk lining, that's where rust is. Sometimes it's not covered. They don't paint over it, try to hide it. So look for rust. But I say that if you've got a friend that's a mechanic, or if you can just pay the service charge of $50 to $100, it's well worth your cost to have someone that inspects cars to go do a mobile inspection for you. They'll do it. It'll cost you a little bit thing, but if you're paying $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 for a car, have someone inspect it. You should check the VIN number on the vehicle and match each location. My friend that recently bought his car did check the VIN number. It matched the title. It wasn't stolen. It matched the bill of sale. It matched the windshield. It matched the side of the door. And there was no reason for him to believe that this car was stolen. Everything matched. However, after looking every place on the engine, in the car, he finally found it on the engine by having to get a rag cloth and a flashlight and putting it up on, getting it raised off of its wheels. And that's when he called me and gave me the actual VIN number that was on the engine. And that one did come up stolen 2 years ago. So they held this car, my guy's car, for 2 years. Or it might not have been 2 years. Maybe they were just waiting to sell it. But what they did was a guy that was the owner of the car, the VIN that they were using, it got traded in and somebody was scouting out the car dealership. When it came in, it matched the color, the year, the maker, and the model perfectly. It looked exactly like this car. And VIN numbers have a coding system where you can match that all up. And when I called the dealership thinking, well, they don't even know the car's been stolen, they checked it all out. The dealership, oh no, we've got these. This car is a good car. So that's when I had my guy go look at his VIN numbers again, and we determined that the car dealership guy had just gotten it. It was literally just traded in. These thieves were watching for a car to get traded in, and they ran the car VIN. They found a perfect car VIN number, and then they did VIN cloning and put it on the car my friend bought. My friend could be driving it. The problem is that it may not end up discover that it's stolen for a while, but at some point it will. And when he goes to the county tax assessor to get his registration and the plates, they will arrest him on the spot. They've got deputies there. They're waiting for that. This happens all the time. Now, he might be able to talk his way out of it, but you don't want to run that risk. You want to check everything out before you go get your brand new car registered because it could be stolen. All right. Now, if you're still not sure if it was stolen, like my guy wasn't, take the car to mechanic, He will help you determine if there's any mechanical problems with the vehicle or if any of the parts don't belong on that car that are also listed as being stolen. I don't know how they would do that. The mechanics can tell these things. A good mechanic will be able to see if anything odd has been done to the vehicle. The new cars have GPSs and you can track them, but thieves, according to my clients, can disable these particular items. And the older cars that are being stolen don't have those. And our car got stolen. It was 2012. It didn't have that. Of course, we're going to get that now, an anti-theft device and various other things. And we're going to talk about that later in the show and what you can do to protect your car from being stolen from these thieves that can steal it literally in 30 seconds that quickly. And they have different methods. It doesn't have to just be through the steering wheel column. It can be the computer chip, and it matches the new key that they have. Just by opening up the hood, there's all these things they can do to steal your car. It's just amazing, the technology, what happens. Any aftermarket parts or prior damage should be noticed and should be a red flag. If there's no mention of any prior damage in your Carfax or the person that's selling it to you, that's where the mechanic's going to come in really handy for you. Now, you want to run on your own, or you can get an attorney to do it, like I did it for my friend. Of course, it was after the fact. You can run the VIN to the National Insurance Crime Bureau database. If you put that name in there, National Insurance Crime Bureau, they have a little toggling icon where you can put the VIN number in there, and it'll come up whether it's been stolen or not. The vehicle would be registered stolen or whether it's salvaged. It gives you a lot of information on this National Insurance Crime Bureau database. And that also comes in handy now that they've just established this, I think, a few years ago, because when your car is stolen in Texas and it's now being driven in New York, they didn't have that before, and they're finding that out now. That's also bad if you buy a stolen vehicle, because the vehicle you're driving is now going to be it's going to come up as stolen much quicker. So you're not. I don't want to say you're going to get away with it unless you knew it was stolen, but it'll be uncovered quicker. And so do your homework. Don't buy this car stolen, or you're holding the bag. And you won't have a car on top of it. Doing this research yourself is totally free, and it's a great tool to help you protect yourself against purchasing a stolen vehicle. Now, what happened with my friend is I tested this National Insurance Crime Bureau database, and the first VIN came up not stolen. That's because the car wasn't stolen; it was VIN cloned. The car he had was stolen. The car VIN was not stolen. Now, then I put in the VIN that he gave me that was on his engine, and it came up immediately as stolen. It also has a little place in there that tells you whether the car has been labeled salvage. And that's also a good thing to know, because they still salvage, the thieves will still salvage VINs, and they're not, it also won't show up as stolen, it shows as salvage, because the car has been demolished and sold for parts. And you can't get insurance on salvage unless they're rebuilt. But then it's going to come up if enough research is done that it's been stolen. So you still want to look at that kind of thing. Check the vehicle's history with Carfax. Now, my friend did check the vehicle's history with Carfax. But here was the red flag. Those things are 32 pages long. They really get into a lot of detail. And when you got right down to the bottom of it, it showed that a dealership had purchased the car on April 7th as a trade-in, and they had not put it on their lot yet, or whatever it's called. But it showed that it had been inspected back. It hadn't been re-inspected yet, so the inspection had expired. A dealership bought the car, but it wasn't stolen. What happened was when we I just lost my train of thought on this particular car because I was thinking about this Carfax deal. The dealership didn't know it was stolen. My friend thought that because it was owned by a dealership, that this smaller dealership was flipping it for the larger dealership as an agent, and so everything was clean. But when I did the research for him through my legal resources to find out who owned the car and who the license plate on the title was registered to, they came up to two different people, and neither matched the owner on the Carfax. So that was a huge red flag. The plate didn't match the owner on the Carfax. The VIN didn't match the owner on the Carfax. And the person selling it to him didn't match, okay? It is recommended that to always check before you make a used car purchase this VIN history and get the Carfax. You can see salvaged, junked, and flood titles, frame and structural damage, accident indicators, and more. Dealerships give you a free Carfax on their from their system when you buy. Now, if you are the only one I just want to make sure that everybody knows this, and you know this from listening to my show. You've got to take care of yourself. Nobody's looking out for you in this life. You come into life with nothing, you leave life with nothing. And in between, although you may have the best friends ever, you need to take care of yourself. And if you've got a very trusted, significant other that you like Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, or my, the Dr. Jim, my Prince Jim, if you've got somebody that you wholly respect and rely upon, then do rely upon them. Jim, when he was helping me I kind of bounced these things off of him. The first thing he said was, your friend's car was stolen. He didn't even have to look at anything. He goes, the deal was too good. The signature on the title didn't match the driver's license that was, he had. None of this stuff added up. He said it was stolen. And then, of course, it took us a long time to uncover it. But Jim's instincts were right. And I was giving this person the benefit of the doubt because my friend was just so overwhelmed. He just paid this money for the car. And he's afraid he won't get the car money back. But I'm going to get the car money back from him because I'm going to sue this guy under his bond. He's going to get that money back one way or the other. We're going to find how to do that, undoubtedly, because my friend is injured. I'm going to go fight for him. Car insurance will not protect you against purchasing a stolen vehicle because you haven't insured the vehicle you purchased. It was stolen, and insurance companies are not going to insure a stolen vehicle, and they don't insure for dumbness. You told them you're purchasing a particular car. You may be able to drive off the lot, so to speak, with your car insured, but they're not insuring a stolen vehicle. Period. That's the caveat. All right. Educating yourself on these issues before you choose on a deal is the very best first step. If it looks like a deal that's too good to be true and they're saying you need to buy it in the next hour or somebody's going to come get it, then let it go until you've done your research, because don't buy into that. That's just, you hurt yourself. And there'll be another car that comes up. There's just thousands and hundreds of thousands of cars out there. So the top three things you want to do are verify the VIN on the vehicle, get an inspection by a mechanic, and check the vehicle's history through Carfax. And then I say the fourth thing to do is if you have a friend who's an attorney, you have them look into it for you, because they'll tell you pretty quickly whether or not this is a deal that you should pass on or not. Know what to look for and don't follow through on a deal when you know it does not feel right. Get a second opinion. Getting the deal of the century in a stolen car is not going to do you a whole lot of good when it's repossessed and you're left with nothing. Okay, so that is how people get away with selling you a stolen car. Now, how do you spot a stolen car? We've kind of gone over a little bit of this stuff in that last segment, but I still want to go over how you spot it, because there's a few other things that we didn't mention. And then I want to talk just briefly about Vin cloning, because I'd never even heard of this. It is so prevalent now. It is incredible. It's even got its own wiki page. Vin cloning, or car cloning, is a practice of using a vehicle identification number from a legally registered car to hide the identity of a stolen or salvaged vehicle. The procedure involves replacing the serial plate of a stolen or salvaged repaired vehicle with a plate containing the number of a validly registered vehicle of similar make, model, and year from another state, province, or country. The use of this practice by organized theft ring is partially responsible for the creation of the national databases, such as the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System. It's another database that you want to check in the United States, and the Personal Property Securities Registration in other countries, including Mexico. The problem with VIN cloning is potentially large, with the FBI reporting one case in Tampa where more than 1,000 cloned cars were sold to buyers in 20 states and several countries, with estimated losses of more than $27 million to consumers, auto insurers, and other victims just last year. If the purchaser of a cloned vehicle has its true pedigree discovered, the car will be confiscated and the owner would still be responsible for any outstanding loans. So that means the person that bought it still owes the loan to the dealership from the stolen car, because you have to go up the pike and find them liable if you can find them. And the person that's car was stolen, if it wasn't insured, still owns the loans on it too, regardless of the damage. So you also want to make sure you get really good insurance, which kind of goes to another little issue that we came up with when on our car that was on our own car that was recently stolen. We didn't get rental insurance because we have like 10 cars, and so we didn't think we needed it. Ends up that that would have come in really handy because all of our cars, started breaking down, and we had people that needed to borrow them and that kind of thing. And we had some of them that were being, maintained and what have you. It ended up that we were kind of running low on cars, and that rental insurance is only like $1 a month. It's nothing, and we didn't get it. So we really, I think from now on, we're going to recode all of our cars to get rental insurance. The other thing that we learned with our car insurer is that you can actually, if you're not driving all your cars, which we don't, you can save 90% of your insurance premium if you put them in what's called storage. And of course, you need to tell the insurance company when you take it out of storage to drive it. But if it's in, quote, storage while it's being repaired, or you're not driving it because you're driving other cars, then, and you're not insured if it's in storage and you don't tell the insurance company, you get in a wreck. It saves you an awful lot of money. So that was something I learned too. And the last thing is you can get this insurance. It's a prong of the insurance, and I'm not using the right terminology, but it's something that you add that's offered if you don't want to have to haggle with the insurance company for the actual cash value, which is what they give you instead of the replacement cost. Instead, the insurance company, if you get this extra option, they will pay you 20% over the actual cash value, and it only costs you like $3 extra per month on your car. But no one's anticipating their car getting stolen, and so we didn't take that option, and so we were kind of mad about it. So we were haggling with the insurance company under this actual cash value, and the insurance companies will never give you the value of your car. You've got to fight them for it. And it ends up that we didn't need to go that direction because our car was recovered. But those are a few things that you want to look at when you're getting insurance on your car. In some states in the United States, not I guess in other countries, we're only talking about the United States here in this program, the car dealership may be held responsible. And one of those states is actually Florida, and another is Wisconsin. I don't think they have it in Texas because I looked for that statute. You can go through their bond like I'm doing for my friend. The Texas Department of Dealerships, I guess Texas. The statutes require that dealers have a minimum of a $25,000 bond. And when you go to the website, you can see, and the Secretary of State, you can see who the owners are and who you need to find liable for selling you a stolen car, which is what I'm doing for my friend. The owner of the legitimately registered vehicle that the number belongs to could potentially be accused of a variety of offenses, from parking tickets to serious criminal activity like organized crime. So you may be buying a car from somebody that's a drug dealer, so you would be careful about that too. I guess it's hard to say when you're buying a used car, but I guess if the title is transferred properly, it shouldn't matter. You're not going to be held liable. But if you are buying a stolen car, then this is all going to come up, and now there's going to be a whole lot of red tape and things that you're going to have to untangle, including possibly being accused of these crimes, even though you didn't do it because your car is linked to them. The victim could spend a great amount of money and time trying to prove that they are not the owner of the cloned vehicle. So I'm just going to throw out there that your car, like your own personal identity, can be stolen. Your car's identity can be stolen, and people can be parking and using your the duplicate VIN, and you'd never even know it. So I guess it couldn't hurt if you'd want to pop your vehicle identification numbers in these crime statistic databases and see if anything comes up if you want to be extra careful. But usually that kind of thing only happens if there's a catalyst for it, like your car being stolen. The practice has been reported, Vin cloning, in numerous countries, including Canada and Mexico. So Vin cloning is becoming something very, very prevalent. You want to watch out for that. What I was talking about before, to get back on track here, going full circle, how do you avoid buying a stolen vehicle? And I'm looking at my time. I'm actually on track, so I was going to cover 4 segments today. And then the other 4 we're going to cover next time. How to avoid buying a stolen vehicle. The first thing is, when buying from a private individual, make sure the title and the registration match. I keep going over that because it's so important. And you want to also check out the seller to make sure that they are savory and not felons. I don't think I would be buying my vehicle from somebody that's already been convicted several times over for selling stolen vehicles. Be cautious of a seller with no fixed address, place of employment, or phone number. What happened with my friend was he said, hey, the seller is my good friend. Here is her driver's license, which he had on him, the actual driver's license. Here is the signed title. Here's the signed bill of sale. Here's my power of attorney. I'm just handling it for. Everything looked legitimate. But when I looked up her background, she has got convictions for prostitution. She is a felon in Brazoria County. She's got misdemeanors in Fort Bend County. She was arrested the day this particular car was sold for trafficking cocaine, and she has several assaults and several thefts. So this girl is a felon. He should never have purchased a car with a seller with this kind of background, but he didn't know. It all looked so different, and she looked so sweet. She had the prettiest driver's license picture. She was a young, beautiful girl just selling her, late model family car that looked in such perfect condition. And she had a fixed address on top of it. But it was an apartment. That's not a fixed address. She doesn't own. I would want to buy from somebody that actually owns their house, not somebody that can't even afford a house that's living in an apartment, unless they were here just doing business. And, I'm not buying that either. People are going to sell their cars from their fixed addresses. So look for the seller having a fixed address, a place of employment, and a phone number that's a legitimate phone number that you can call and they actually answer. Ask the seller for references about past financing and insurance on the vehicle. Verify the information with the bank and the insurance agent to make sure that that's all checks out. Number 4, ensure the vehicle VIN number on the automobile's dash is present, secure, and unaltered. I will tell you this. When I'm dealing with my clients and I'm representing for car theft in my own car, as well as the cars that I looked at recently, my own that we got back, and this car that I was looking at my friends, that VIN on the dash looked completely legitimate. These people had the GM VIN plate down to a science. It looked completely legitimate. The title looked completely legitimate. There was nothing that looked on paper to look like this was stolen, but it was. Check to ensure the VIN plate has not been repainted and the numbers stamped in the plate appear to be the original factory numbers. We did that. It looked fine, so that didn't help. You have to do more than just that. If in doubt about the plate authenticity, check with a new car dealer who handles the same model or contact law enforcement agency. These may remove the VIN plate and replace it with one of a similar wrecked vehicle or a similar model. That's the Vin Cloning. That's what we just talked about recently. Be suspicious of any deal that seems too good to be true because, as you know, in any situation, it usually is. And I think that goes for people too and spouses and that kind of thing. You have to check them out. That's what I did with my beloved Dr. Jim, and he checked out with flying colors. But I was really careful about that. I didn't do that with my second husband, even though he was an attorney. I should have, because it ends up that he had lots of skeletons in the closet that I did not learn about because even attorneys can, hide a bunch of stuff. And as an attorney, I wasn't, and so in love, I didn't know to look into all that stuff I should have. Live and learn. Okay, now, how do you avoid buying a stolen car? And you would think that we have gone over that. There's even more things that you can do to avoid buying a stolen car. Now, this goes toward, I'm looking at, I think we've already looked at that. In fact, we did go over how to avoid stealing a car. And we went over those 7 actions. The top 10 ways to determine these are top 10 ways to steal a car. We're moving over from determining whether the car is stolen and what you do when you've got a stolen car to see how your car is stolen. How do you protect yourself from your car being stolen? And these are the ways that thieves steal your car, okay? Top 10 ways. These are not all the ways. These are the top 10. This is what the thieves do. Bump against the car to check for a car alarm. Since it seems like everything from a loud Harley to a rumbling garbage truck can set off a car alarm. People have been conditioned to tune them out. Instead of a motion-sensitive car alarm, use one that has a pager that will notify you as soon as your alarm is activated because they're bumping up against the car to see if it's got an alarm, and they're going to run off if it's loud enough. Our car actually had an alarm, but they were out of there so fast and were able to disengage it that it didn't even matter. I mean, no one was even looking, and it took them literally, we watched the video from like a mile away. We have a really, really bad security video from where the car was stolen in the doctor's parking lot. It took them literally a minute to get into the car and drive off, and with the alarm going off and it being disabled. So I think even if we had the car alarm pager, at least, Jim would have walked out there looking for where his car was. He would have immediately, they maybe could have gone in and looked for his car being hauled off, or not hauled off, them hauling off in it. Obviously, there was a ring here. They drove up in a car, anticipating stealing a car, and stole a car. The next thing they do is they break the window or jimmy the lock to gain entry into the locked car. We went over this earlier in the program. Don't tempt car thieves. Keep valuables out of plain sight. Take them with you or store them in the trunk. Also, if you have a stereo with removable faceplate, take it with you instead of tucking it in away the glove box. Thieves, if they want a lot of times people will break in your car solely for the car stereo. But, if your keys are in there too because you've hidden them or something, or it looks like an easy getaway, they've already broken into the car, they're going to steal the car too and take more stuff. Okay, third. This is what my guys have done typically. My old school thieves have moved up to computer programming. They replaced the computer board and they have a master key. After just going into the hood, they pop the hood, they get into the car. They replace the computer board, not even on the same day, and then have a master key and just walk up to the car where they know it's parked because they're scoping out the car they want to steal. They just go drive it away. But and they use gloves and their fingerprints on it, so they get away with it. But my guys cut the steering wheel itself, and they cut the steering wheel. Even if there's a steering wheel lock. So, but basically they're going in through the steering wheel shaft to get to use their key to start the engine or to I guess the hot wire. And this is something I guess I need to have them show me do, my little criminals, when they get out of prison. I don't know how they do that. I don't know anything about cars, but I do know that the few cars that have been recovered, including ours, the steering column was broken, and that's how they were able to. They broke into the car with the key. Through the driver's lock, took them like 15 seconds. Were able to break the steering column and start it up. And then they had all these blank keys in our car when we recovered our car. So this was something that they were, of course, when our car was recovered, they were in the commission of stealing another car. So they had the blank keys, I guess maybe for the new car. Who knows? Our fob oddly still works, so they didn't tamper with that. Instead of locking just your steering wheel, lock your car's ability to go by using a starter disable switch and putting it in a place where only you can get to it. Okay, so all of my car aficionados, y'all might know what that means. I have no idea what that means, but Jim, if you're listening, maybe we need to put that on our car. 4, look for exposed wiring that can be cut or for the central unit of the car alarm to activate it. I'm not really sure what that means. So guys, if that know all about cars, look for the exposed wiring. Instead of going to a big retail chain store, have your car alarm installed by a professional car alarm installer, preferably a reasonably shady one. Unlike retail chain employees, these experts know what it takes to make your car elusive to crooks. I think that's probably true. I may get some of my little criminals to come over our car and my car thieves that have learned their lesson and are rehabilitated and come check out my car and make sure that it's theft proof. Number 4, look for car alarm decals to figure out which method to use to eliminate the alarm. Never display stickers that advertise what sort of car alarm you have, or audio system for that matter. Consider using a hood lock cable so the thief can't get to your battery or car alarm mechanism. That is critical for your brand new cars, even with the GPSs in them, because my guys are putting new computer boards in the car after they scope it out. So you want to get a hood lock cable and make it that much more difficult for these people to steal your car, because they're going to walk away if they're seeing you're doing all of this stuff. Number 6, they jump into an unattended I'm sorry. So what they're doing is they're looking for could alarm decals to see what kind of car method you have. Number 4, they're jumping into unattended running cars while the owner is at the ATM, are dropping off videos, are throwing away their trash, are doing other things while the car is running. And I may be guilty as charged for the limited purpose of I will jump out of my car to check my mail. I've jumped out of my running car to throw trash away. I've never left my car key in my ignition in any place outside my home. But if you're in an apartment complex, then they're watching you. I mean, there's a lot of people watching all the time if you have a good car. Never leave your keys in the ignition, even for a quick errand. Car theft is a crime of opportunity, so don't make it easy for them to grab yours. My car was stolen from my son's apartment complex about maybe 10 years ago. And what happened was they were watching me. I did walk about 100 feet over to the trash bin because I was just throwing trash away before I left to go do jail visits. They watched me though, and I never knew that there was anybody even watching what I was doing. And so even in an apartment complex that is gated, these people obviously lived there, and it was during the rodeo. They could get in and out of the gated community. It was really, really bad. I was just so unsuspecting, and they got my $25,000 engagement ring that I had just taken off because I didn't want to get stolen when I did jail visits. They got about $1,800 in cash because I had cash in my car. They stole my credit cards. They were getting gas with them. I mean, it was just really sad, and I didn't get compensated for that in any way. Because we recovered the car and they don't cover contents. All right. The next thing that car thieves look for is, so I learned from that too. I don't put a lot of stuff in my car. I don't keep stuff in my car anymore. Number 7, look for the car's title, registration, or anything with the home address on it. So if you leave your car title out at a place where it's being worked on, or if it's, a lot of this stuff is online anyway, so there's not a lot of stuff you can do about it. But in particular, if you're just kind of being lazy about it, and you have your home address on these things, then, and you're living in a subdivision and you park out in front, your car's not inside your car garage that you're now using to store all the stuff that you can't fit in your house, then you're a sitting duck for a thief, because they know where you live, they know where your car is, and they can come steal your car in the middle of the night, which they have. Keep your registration and insurance information with you. Never leave personal information in your car. Try to protect your car if you do have it parked outside your house. Number 8, gosh, we're actually going to make it through the top 10. Stake out sporting events. This is what thieves do. They stake out sporting events, movie theaters, and shopping center parking lots, and in any places where there's a lot of activity. Maybe it's consistent that you would go there, maybe your favorite restaurant or what have you. They're scoping out, like a popular bar. They're scoping out these lots for cars of their choice, since those cars offer the largest variety of cars in one area. So I'm going to read that again. They stake out sporting events, movie theaters, and shopping center parking lots for the car of your choice, since they offer the largest variety of cars in one area. Whenever possible, park in lots and garages that have security and parking lot attendants. If not, then don't park in the. If not, I can't read this. Sorry. If not, don't park in the furthest corner of the lot, but rather near the entrance of these facilities to ensure the most foot traffic and the most potential witnesses. Also, opt for paying the extra couple of dollars for the monitored parking lot instead of using the free parking lot on the less traffic side of the streets. Because, and this is bad about me, I park, downtown all the time where I know there's crime. The people that don't have any place to live and they're desperate, they need money, and they're in these shelters. My car is primed to steal. So I'm really, really lucky that I never got my car stolen from my downtown lots when I'm going to the courthouse. Number 9, find the second set of keys the owner hid in the car. If you think that you've got this little, magnetic key thing and you're putting it under the tire wheel or a place where everybody hides them, the thieves are also looking in those places. They know where to look. Don't leave your spare keys in your car or on the magnetic box attached to the underside of your car. Thieves know where all the hiding places are. Station Manager Dick is telling me I've got to wind up, but this is the 10th one. They look to copy specific vehicle information and take it to the manufacturer to get the replacement key made. Instead, and they will. So they can get, with your information saying it's their car, they'll go to the manufacturer and get the key made. Instead of then etching the major parts of your vehicle, which doesn't turn most thieves off, drop your business car into the doors through the windshield slots to identify your car as yours. Basically, stealing a car is a theft of opportunity. If the crook really wants your car, he's going to do what he needs to get to steal it. Layering your car with anti-theft protection, especially if it's the top most stolen vehicle, is a good start. But as with anything that is of value to you, the most important protection you can give your car is to take proactive approach to security, to secure it when you leave it unattended. And another thing that we're going to talk about on our next show is that you can etch the VIN number in each one of the windows. Car thieves don't like to replace the glass. It's too expensive for them. Okay, so we're going to wind up for today. You can get us on Facebook if you missed any part of this broadcast. We're going to do the second part of car theft next show. And you need to serve God by serving others. And we will see you next week for second part of Car Theft Show.